My name's Justin Taylor. I have been homeless for the last 5 months, and this is my story.
You're homeless by choice, correct?
Right, yeah. This was never an issue of like me being kicked out of an apartment or not having enough money. You know, I've mentioned it to friends kind of jokingly all through my undergraduate years. And really the reason that I never ended up doing it was because BYU has rules as to like where a student can live, and we have to report our addresses to the school so that they know where we're at. Graduate students do not have the same housing rules as undergraduates. I don't have to live in BYU approved housing, which means that I can live pretty much anywhere as long as I'm following the honor code listed by BYU. And so once I was a master's student, I was like, oh, like I can do this now. I actually ran into someone who had also attempted to be homeless while they were in college, and they had like a ton of pointers for me, and they were like, hey, like how can I help? Like, what do you need? And I told them like, well, like honestly, the hardest part about this is just like finding a permanent place to sleep so I don't have to take it up and or put up and take down my gear every night. And he's like, do you know what? I've got like this little empty lot back behind my house. Like, you're welcome to like set your tent up on it. And it ended up being like the perfect setup where I was literally, you know, a 5-minute walk from campus, and like it was just right there. And now I've been there for the last 3 months. So it's been pretty nice.
Okay, so this is the backyard of the guy that is letting me stay in his place. He gave me a little piece of property that I can set up a tent on so that I have a place to sleep. So that's my tent back there in the corner. It's not very big, it's just like, you know, just, I don't know, a couple meters long is all. And then this is my tent.
Where are we headed to?
Let's head over to the LSB, because that's actually where I spend most of my time aside from sleeping. This is where I work inside of the LSB. I work for a professor doing research on wildfire ecology. And this is the lab space where I keep a number of my belongings. And I've got after hours access to this building because of the nature of my work. I have to get in here after hours, and then I have keys to this lab space so that I can get in here anytime. So it's not like I'm ever like worried about not being able to access my stuff. There's kind of two spots where I keep things. This is kind of like the office space for the undergraduate workers. And if you can look behind you, actually, we have a refrigerator and a microwave. The microwave was already here along with a smaller mini fridge. And I installed this so that I'd have place to keep my food. This is my desk space. This is where I sit when I'm doing work. And luckily this room has like a ton of shelving in it that doesn't get used. So I've got like my motorcycle gear is right here on this shelf. I've got most of this is books that were there before I even started being homeless, but I keep like my dishes. And then up there I've got a little bit more food storage. And then these are the duffel bags over here where I keep my clean clothes in one and my dirty clothes in the other. And honestly, like what I've shown you is pretty much everything I have to my name. Like I've really reduced a lot of what I own so that I can like live this lifestyle without like being burdened by things. And that's one of the weird things about being homeless is you realize how much you don't need stuff, and then also how hard it is to find places for your things.
So do you ever have any problems with like other coworkers complaining about your stuff being everywhere? And
the towel, they started complaining about the towel. I don't know, I guess because it's like unsanitary, I guess.
An intimate item.
A little bit of an intimate item, right? I think most of them think it's hilarious and they want to tell their friends about the crazy guy that they work with. So another question I get a lot is, well, why don't you just sleep in your car? And the answer to that is I currently am carless in addition to being homeless, but I do have a ride, and so I'll kind of show you guys. This is how I've been getting around. I have a motorcycle that I've owned for a couple of years that has turned out to be a really good resource for being homeless. It's a much cheaper way of getting transportation. I mean, my insurance on it is like $100 a year, so and it gets like 70 miles per gallon. I think the hardest part of my like entire experience being homeless is that I didn't realize how much I needed social interaction. When I'm here late at night and this building is empty, like it gets pretty boring and it gets pretty lonely, and like I find myself seeking out social interaction, which is something I had never done before in my life. Like I never really felt like I was that much of like an extrovert until I was alone all the time.
I'm only temporarily homeless, and it's by choice, and it's gonna end and it'll just be a good memory that I can look back on. But I feel like that's almost not the real homeless experience, you know? Because most people who are on the streets are like permanently there and really don't have any other option. And so like, I guess that desperation or that like hopelessness feeling is something that I didn't get to experience as a part of my homelessness. That like, you know, thousands of homeless people all over the world experience every day. And I think that I've kind of gained a new insight into what that might feel like. You know, I've just gotten a small taste of something that people have spent their life, you know, feeling. And I think, you know, reaching out and becoming part of charities and stuff that help out homeless people is kind of something that I'm wanting to look into and start being a bigger part of, and kind of make their lives a little less like mine has been for the last 5 months.